My name is Cassia Rowe, 32 years old. The earthquake wasn't cinematic. No collapsing skyscrapers or splitting highways, just a hard, violent jolt that made my cupboard scream and the dishes die in chorus. The walls shuddered like something alive. When it stopped, silence felt deafening, like the world was holding its breath to see who broke first. Ruby stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed fox, eyes wide as saucers, her lip trembling. "Mommy," she whispered. "It's okay," I lied, pressing her head into my stomach so she wouldn't see the cracks in the plaster or the way my hands shook. By morning, a city inspector in a hard hat used the word unlivable. No hesitation, no empathy. He slapped a red sticker on my door and walked off like he'd just said, "Good luck." I looked at Ruby's tiny fingers tangled in mine and thought, there's no plan B. So I did what children do when the ground collapses. I called my parents. Mom answered on the second ring. "Of course, honey, you can come," she said, voice bright and effortless, like kindness cost her nothing. Relief almost knocked me to my knees. I didn't ask what she meant by you, didn't double check that it included my 5-year-old daughter, who calls their mother to confirm they can bring their child. Their house was 5 hours away, the same one I grew up in. With them lived my older sister, Brittany, her boyfriend, Shane, and her 3 kids from her first marriage. It was crowded, sure, but family meant space, didn't it? We packed fast. Clothes, toothbrushes, the stuffed fox, 1 bag of snacks, Ruby's favorite pajamas with stars on the knees. While I buckled her into her car seat, she asked if our house was really broken. "Yes, baby," I said. She looked out the window, quiet for a while. "Grandma's house is big, right?" "Big enough," I said, forcing a smile. It was nearly sunset when I turned into their driveway. The porch light glowed just as it had every Christmas, every summer visit. For a second, it felt like home again. Mom opened the door before I could knock. "Cassia, you made it!" Her smile froze when she saw Ruby behind me. "Oh, you brought her." For a heartbeat, I waited for the joke. It didn't come. "Kind of hard to leave a 5-year-old home alone," I said, trying for humor. Mom blinked, flustered. "We just thought it would be you. The house is packed. Brittany's here with the kids. Shane's using the den. The basement's a game room. There's nowhere to put another child." Ruby half hid behind my coat. "I can sleep on the couch," she whispered. Mom sighed, like explaining physics to a toddler. "Sweetheart, it's not that simple." "Not for Brittany's kids?" I asked. "They live here," she said. "Right," I replied, heartbeat slowing to something dangerous. "They live here." Translation: you don't. Brittany appeared in the hallway. Perfect hair, phone in hand. "Hey, Cass. Crazy quake, huh? Glad you're okay, but yeah, no beds left." Ruby's face went red. Her little hand squeezed tighter around my sleeve. Mom folded her arms. "You can stay. We'll make it work for a few nights. But maybe Ruby could stay somewhere else. It's just too much chaos for a little one." I thought I'd misheard. "Without the child?" Mom nodded, tone calm, almost reasonable. "Just until things settle." Ruby's voice cracked. "I'll be good, Grandma." Mom smiled the way people smile at stray kittens. "It's not about being good, honey. It's just a full house." From the den came laughter and the sound of a video game. I laughed once, sharp. Wouldn't want to disturb Shane's office. "It's a workspace," he yelled from inside. "Sure," I said. "Very professional." Ruby started to cry, quietly, like she was sorry for existing. "Mom," I said evenly, "you think I'm leaving her? You said we could come." "Please don't make this harder," she said. "Harder than what? Telling your granddaughter she doesn't fit? Don't be dramatic." That almost made me laugh again. I zipped Ruby's coat. "Come on, sweetheart. Where are we going?" "Somewhere with space." I didn't slam the door. I just walked out, their laughter leaking through the walls. The motel was 5 blocks away. Neon sign, $30 a night, color TV. I checked in without looking at the clerk. The room smelled like bleach and sadness. Ruby curled up on one bed, asleep before her shoes were off. I sat on the other, staring at a ceiling crack that split the room in 2. Fitting. That was us now, a clean break. Around 3 a.m., Ruby mumbled, "Are we going home soon?" "Soon," I said, though we had no home to go to. I lay awake listening to trucks on the highway. Each rumble felt like the ground reminding me who was done shaking and who wasn't. I didn't cry. I just said the words out loud, the ones that had become my shield. Noted. 3 days later, I was still in that room, staring at the same crack, when Mom texted, "Are you safe? Nothing more." "No, I'm sorry. No, come back." I ignored it. You'd think rejection would stop hurting after a lifetime of rehearsal, but it always finds new angles. When I was a kid, Brittany was the sun, and I orbited her. 2 years older, louder, prettier. She could break a lamp and get praises for creativity. I once got grounded for breathing too close to her science project. Mom said we were just different types. Dad said she was the achiever. Apparently, I was the contrast. My bedroom was a converted laundry room because I didn't need much space. Her trophies lined the hallway. Her friends cut through my room to get to the backyard. I learned early to be small, polite, unnoticeable. So when I got a full scholarship to college 5 hours away, I packed without a single tear. Mom hugged me at the door and whispered, "We're proud of you," like it was an apology. College was the first quiet place I'd ever lived. No footsteps outside my door. No one asking me to move over. I studied social work, maybe as cosmic irony, trying to fix the kind of families that broke me. Years later, I met Ruby. She was 2, all curls and serious eyes, clinging to me the first time we met. Her mother, Trina, rolled her eyes. "She likes everybody." That wasn't true. Ruby liked quiet voices and safe hands. When Trina disappeared, 2 DUIs, gone without trace, Ruby went into emergency foster care. I couldn't sleep. I volunteered to take her temporarily. Paperwork, background checks, endless forms. But one night she called me Mama by accident, and I didn't correct her. 3 months later, it was official. When I told my parents, Mom said, "Oh, wow, that's unexpected." Dad asked, "Are you sure you want to raise someone else's kid alone?" Brittany texted 3 heart emojis. That was the family celebration. Still, I brought Ruby down that summer, hoping for some warmth. She drew a picture for Grandma. Mom called it colorful. Dad asked if Ruby knew she was adopted. Mom said, "Tell her early so she doesn't think she's really part of the family." I almost dropped my fork. Later that night, I overheard her whispering to Brittany, "It's not the same. You can't just buy love." I should have learned then, but social workers believe people can change. Now, lying in that motel room, I stared at the ceiling crack and decided I wouldn't beg anyone for space again. Ruby slept curled around her stuffed fox. Outside, dawn leaked through the blinds. I scrolled through my phone, thumb hovering over contacts, until I reached Simone, a colleague, part-time saint. She answered on the first ring. "Cassia, you okay?" I told her everything. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said, "Pack nothing else. Just come here. I've got a spare room. Olivia will love having another kid around." 5 hours later, Ruby and I stood at Simone's door. Her house smelled like coffee and clean laundry. Olivia, her 8-year-old, met us barefoot, holding 2 toy dinosaurs. "Want to play?" she asked Ruby. Ruby nodded, and just like that, she disappeared into safety. Simone pressed a mug into my hand. "Stay as long as you need." I didn't realize until that moment how long I'd waited for someone to say those exact words. That night, Ruby slept through for the first time in a week. I didn't. My body was calm, but my brain ran laps. By morning, I'd made a decision. I was done paying for belonging. Literally. I opened my banking app and stopped the $200 monthly transfer I'd been sending my parents for house upkeep, a small family tax for staying in their good graces. One tap, done. It felt like cutting a leash. Then came the next question. What now? I sat at Simone's kitchen table, laptop open, Ruby's laughter echoing from the yard. I typed real estate lawyer near me. The cursor blinked like a pulse. I hovered over the booking button and whispered, "If there's no room for us there, why am I still paying for one?" The lawyer's office smelled faintly of lemon polish and quiet authority. Franklin, 50-something, neat gray bun, voice like granite, read through my documents with surgical calm. Her eyes flicked from the deed to me, back to the deed. "You're listed as tenant in common with your parents and sister," she said finally, "which means you legally own 1/3 of the property. You're within your rights to sell your share or to petition for a sale of the entire home." I stared at her hands as they moved with measured precision, tapping the paper stack. "Even if they live there?" "Especially if they live there," she said. "You can't be forced to co-own indefinitely." The word indefinitely hummed through me, like the sound of a locked door finally creaking open. "I want to move forward," I said. Franklin didn't flinch. "Then we'll draft the notice today." By the time I left her office, the world felt sharper, like all the edges I'd softened for years had come back to life. 3 days later, the certified letter went out. I didn't warn them. Why spoil the surprise? The phone rang the next evening. Caller ID, Mom. Hi, Mom. What have you done? No hello, no pause. I assume you mean legally or emotionally. Don't get clever, Cassia. This letter, selling the house, our home? Our, I repeated. Interesting pronoun. Brittany's voice cut in from the background, shrill and immediate. She's doing this because of that child. That child has a name, I said steady. You can't do this to your family, Mom snapped. Pretty sure my family already did this to me, I said. Dad's voice entered next, weary, diplomatic. Sweetheart, think about this. You grew up there. I also grew up invisible there, I said. You remember that part? There was a pause long enough to fit an entire childhood. Then Brittany again. You'll make us homeless. You'll make yourselves homeless, I said calmly. I'm just selling my share. More shouting, overlapping panic and righteousness. I held the phone away, listening to it like static. Then I brought it back to my ear. You could always buy me out. Mom's tone sharpened. Where do you expect us to get that kind of money? Oh, I don't know, I said lightly. Maybe from the extra space you saved by not housing my daughter? And I hung up. I expected guilt to follow, maybe regret. Instead, what came was clarity. Clean, cold, like a blade. That night, Simone found me standing by the window. Let me guess, she said, setting down 2 glasses of wine. They called, I said. They screamed. So progress. She smiled. Pie or wine? Both. We ate in silence while Ruby and Olivia drew chalk flowers on the driveway. The sky bruised into evening. For the first time in years, the noise in my head matched the quiet outside. But peace never lasts long in families like mine. By morning, Brittany's social media post had gone viral in our small town. Some people would evict their own parents just to feel powerful. Mom commented with a heart emoji. Simone slid her phone across the counter. You okay? Great, I said. I've always wanted to trend for Parasite. I told myself I didn't care. But later, when I imagined Ruby reading those posts someday, my chest tightened. It's strange how lies, when prettied up enough, can look like morality. Franklin called that afternoon. They've responded, she said. Of course they have, I muttered. They're claiming they already gave you your inheritance years ago. How? Apparently they say your portion was spent raising you. I laughed so hard I startled her. So my childhood was a loan? Should I Venmo them for diapers? It's a delaying tactic, she said. Her voice, steady as bedrock, had a faint warning note. But I suspect there's more. More? Yes, I'll keep digging. I tried to laugh it off, but something in her tone stayed lodged in me all night. The next morning, a new post from Brittany appeared. Blood doesn't make family. Loyalty does. Her friends flooded the comments with hearts and prayers. People love a villain they can recognize from Thanksgiving. I didn't respond. I spent the day helping Simone replant her backyard herbs, pretending the soil between my fingers was enough to ground me. When the phone finally rang again 3 days later, I almost welcomed it. Franklin's voice came through, steady but low. Cassia, I found something. Please tell me it's good. You'll want to sit down. I'm already lying flat, I said. There's a mortgage on the property, she said. A big one, taken out several years ago. And according to the records, you signed it. I what? I'll email you the file. Look at the signature. I opened the laptop. The PDF blinked onto the screen. 4 names. Mom, Dad, Brittany, and me. Except the me wasn't mine. The loops in the C were too perfect. The slant too practiced. Like someone had traced it from memory. My stomach went cold. That's not my signature, I whispered. I assumed, Franklin said. We'll need to report it. How long ago? 5 years? 5 years ago, I remembered Brittany asking me to sign something during a family barbecue. She'd said, just maintenance paperwork for the house. I was holding a plate of salad, Ruby still a toddler on my hip. I didn't sign anything that day. I remember because I'd wiped dressing off my hands and walked away. Apparently someone signed for me anyway. I shut the laptop slowly, like it might explode. For the next 48 hours, I moved through life like a ghost. I made Ruby pancakes, tied her shoelaces, smiled at Simone. Inside, everything was cracking again, this time without warning sirens or inspectors. They hadn't just used me, they'd become me. My name, my trust, my silence. When Franklin scheduled the court hearing, her tone left no room for panic. We'll prove the forgery, she said. Stay steady. I wanted to ask her how. How do you stay steady when the people who raised you turn your identity into currency? But instead I said, I'll be there. That night Simone knocked softly. You haven't eaten. I'm fine, I lied. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. She just sat beside me on the couch, silent. Sometimes silence is the only language grief understands. Out the window, Ruby and Olivia were chasing lightning bugs. Their laughter reached me faintly through the glass. Simone finally spoke. Whatever happens in that courtroom, remember, truth doesn't always heal fast, but it holds. I nodded, eyes stinging. Truth holds, but so do ghosts. When I lay down that night, I dreamed of my forged name floating above a blank page, written over and over in handwriting that wasn't mine. Each signature felt like a theft and a confession. By morning, my hands were still shaking. A notification blinked on my phone, a message from Mom. You're making a mistake. I typed back, so were you. Then I deleted it unsent. I didn't owe them an explanation. The hearing was set for next Thursday, 5 hours away. 5 hours to rehearse what betrayal sounds like in legal language. The courthouse smelled like coffee, paper, and disinfectant, a kind of clean that wasn't comforting. The walls were beige, the air too still. Ruby stayed home with Simone. I didn't want her anywhere near this version of family. Franklin met me at the door, briefcase in hand. Deep breaths, she murmured. We're just here for truth. Truth. The word felt small compared to everything it had to carry. Inside, Mom sat stiff-backed at the table, pearls perfectly aligned. Brittany, in a pastel blazer, arms folded like a barricade. Dad stared at his hands. When he saw me, he managed a faint, guilty smile. I didn't return it. The judge entered. Tired eyes, measured patience. Papers shuffled, oaths sworn. The formality of it all felt absurd. How do you swear to tell the truth in front of people who've spent decades perfecting performance? Franklin started calmly, walking the judge through my ownership share, the inheritance from my grandfather, the halted payments. It was dry, precise, clinical, until Mom's lawyer stood. Your Honor, he said smoothly, the plaintiff already received her share years ago. Her parents invested in her upbringing, private schooling, university costs. This action is duplicative. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have documentation of that? Mom's lawyer hesitated. No written proof, but intent. Intent isn't ownership, the judge cut in. A pulse of heat crawled up my neck. For a second, I almost pitied them. Almost. Then Franklin spoke again. Additionally, Your Honor, there's the matter of the mortgage. The air shifted, even the judge straightened. She slid the document forward. Taken 5 years ago, co-signed under the plaintiff's name. We have handwriting analysis confirming this is not her signature. Mom's face went pale. Brittany's jaw tightened. Dad's knuckles whitened on the table. The judge's voice was quiet but razor sharp. Forgery? Franklin nodded once. The silence after that word was seismic. Mom whispered, That's not true. Franklin didn't flinch. The bank has verified it. I watched Mom's throat move like she'd swallowed glass. Brittany's lips parted, ready to perform outrage, but no sound came. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The judge exhaled. This will be referred for further investigation. For now, the claim of advancement is dismissed. The sale may proceed. Dismissed. Such a simple word for such a long wound. I didn't look at them when I left the courtroom. I just followed Franklin into the hallway, air cold on my face. You did well, she said softly. Did I? My voice sounded far away, because it doesn't feel like winning. It's not supposed to, she said. That night, I sat on Simone's couch, laptop open, scrolling through photos of the house as it appeared in the listing. Clean white walls, polished floors, the hallway glowing like memory had been scrubbed away. No sign of the crack I used to trace with my finger when I was 10. The caption read, Family home with potential. Potential, that was rich. Simone brought tea, placed it beside me. They'll list fast, she said. Good, I murmured. But when I saw Ruby's reflection in the dark window, quiet, drawing something with her markers, I felt an ache that didn't belong to victory. How do you explain fairness to a child who still believes everyone means well? I asked. You don't, Simone said. You show her what it looks like instead. I nodded, trying to believe that could be enough. Over the next week, the backlash began. Brittany's online posts multiplied, filtered photos with captions like, Some wounds never heal when betrayal runs in the blood. Each one gathered hearts, shares, sympathy. Neighbors I hadn't heard from in years sent me cautious texts. Are you okay? Which really meant, is it true? I didn't answer any of them. Still, sometimes I scrolled through the comments, fascinated by how easily strangers rewrote my life. It was like watching a movie adaptation where you recognize your name, but not the plot. Then came a night when Ruby padded into my room, clutching her fox. Mommy? Yes, baby? Are we the bad guys? The question hit harder than any legal blow. I pulled her close, breathing through the knot in my throat. No, sweetheart. We just stopped pretending. She nodded against my shoulder, the way children do when they're trying to understand things they shouldn't have to. The sale process moved faster than I imagined. A buyer made an offer within days. Fair market price. The agent called it a clean transition. I called it poetic justice. But when Franklin called to confirm, her voice carried both satisfaction and warning. After the mortgage payoff, they'll have almost nothing left, she said. Almost nothing? I repeated. Your 1/3 remains untouched. I didn't say anything for a long time. Cassia? Yeah, I said quietly. It's just strange. I thought the earthquake was the worst thing that could happen. It wasn't, she said. It was the beginning. The day before closing, I drove past the house once more. The for sale sign leaned slightly, like even the ground had grown tired. Through the window, I could see movement. Mom boxing dishes, Dad folding an old quilt. Brittany stood on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, still narrating her tragedy to the world. For a moment, I imagined walking up, offering help, maybe even forgiveness. But then I remembered Ruby's tears at that same doorway, the words without the child, and the thought dissolved. When I returned to Simone's, the air smelled like rain. Ruby was on the floor with Olivia, building a fortress from couch cushions. Their laughter filled the room, bright and fragile. Simone looked up from her laptop. Offer accepted, closing tomorrow. I sank into a chair. Just like that? Just like that. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like release. That night, I stood at the window again, watching lightning crawl across the horizon. Somewhere out there, the house I grew up in was being emptied, rooms losing their ghosts, one box at a time. I whispered to the glass, you could have been safe if you'd let her in. In the reflection, my own face looked both older and freer. Before bed, I checked on Ruby. She was asleep, one hand resting on her fox, the other curled loosely, like she was holding on to peace. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. We're almost home, I said. Maybe I was saying it to myself. The sale closed on a Thursday afternoon so ordinary it almost felt wrong. No thunderclap, no drama, just an email from Franklin. Funds cleared. Sale complete. I sat at Simone's kitchen table, phone in hand, reading the message again and again as if the words might shift into something softer. They didn't. After the mortgage and the legal fees were paid, my parents and Brittany got almost nothing. My 1/3, untouched, unblemished, came through clean. $23,000. Enough to pay off the balance of my own small home, the one Ruby and I had fled when the ground split open. I made the transfer that evening. One click, and suddenly every nail, every inch of that place belonged entirely to us. When I told Ruby, she tilted her head. So we don't owe anyone now? No, baby, no one at all. She smiled. Can I make a sign? She did, cutting out letters from colored paper, taping them crookedly across the door. Welcome home. The tape peeled at one corner, but I left it that way. Imperfect, real, ours. For the first time in months, I exhaled without flinching. Still, peace doesn't erase aftermath. Brittany's boyfriend Shane left her the moment the checks cleared. She's changed, he posted online, pairing the words with a sad emoji. Brittany replied with a quote about forgiveness that didn't name anyone, but clearly meant me. Mom and Dad rented a small studio on the edge of town. Photos appeared on her Facebook. Plastic flowers on the sill, a caption that read, "We lost everything but love." People commented, "Stay strong, Linda," as if she were the victim of weather, not choices. I didn't respond. One evening, though, my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "We lost everything because of you." No apology, no confusion, just accusation, clean and practiced. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. Simone appeared in the doorway, 2 beers in hand. "You look like someone who survived a storm," she said. "I did," I said softly. "They just don't know they're still in it." We clinked bottles without smiling. Later, after Ruby fell asleep, I sat alone on the porch. The air was still, the kind of quiet that used to feel eerie but now felt earned. In the distance, a truck rolled by, its low rumble vibrating through the ground. For a moment, my muscles tensed, waiting for the shake, the collapse. But the house held. Maybe that was the difference. This time, I'd built on solid ground. The next morning, I drafted a message to Mom. Not an apology, just boundaries, the kind I should have drawn years ago. "I hope you're safe. I can't keep doing this. Please don't contact me unless it's about Ruby. I wish you peace. I read it 3 times before pressing send. The reply came 5 minutes later. You'll regret cutting family out. I didn't answer. Some silences deserve to stay whole. Weeks passed. Ruby started Aikido lessons at the community center. When I picked her up after class, she ran toward me barefoot, cheeks flushed. Sensei says balance is better than force, she said. I smiled. He's a smart man. She nodded solemnly. It means don't push too hard when you can just stand stronger. I thought about every moment I'd spent bending, appeasing, shrinking. Exactly, I said. At home, she and Olivia sprawled across the living room, painting their nails and arguing about popsicles. Their laughter filled the house like light seeping through cracks that used to exist. Simone leaned in the doorway, watching them. You know, she said, you didn't just rebuild a house. You rewrote what safety means. Maybe, I said, smiling faintly. Or maybe I just stopped mistaking survival for love. That night, I couldn't sleep. I found myself replaying the courtroom, the forged signature, the neat handwriting that wasn't mine. How carefully someone must study you to copy you. How much attention it takes to counterfeit a person you never truly see. That's the part that still keeps me awake, the precision. Because even betrayal, done right, takes care. I got up and walked through the house barefoot, touching the walls, the door frames, the cool solidity of the kitchen counter. Each surface felt honest. No cracks, no secrets. I stopped at Ruby's room. She was asleep, hair a dark halo against her pillow, her stuffed fox tucked under her arm. The nightlight painted soft stars across the wall. I whispered, "You're home." She stirred, mumbled something I couldn't catch, then smiled in her sleep. Outside, wind brushed the windows, gentle but sure. The house didn't shake. Weeks later, the old property finally disappeared from the real estate site. No trace left but a cached photo. Sunlight too perfect, walls too clean. I closed the tab. Ruby padded into the kitchen, barefoot as always. "Mommy, can we bake cookies today?" "Sure," I said. As she reached for the flour, she looked up suddenly. "This house feels stronger." "Maybe it is," I said. "Or maybe we are." She grinned. "Both." She was right. We baked in quiet harmony. The sound of measuring cups, the scrape of spoons, the soft thud of her laughter against the walls. Later, when the cookies cooled, she handed me one, still warm. "Mommy, are we done now?" I looked around. The steady walls, the soft hum of the fridge, the faint chalk stains on the porch, where she and Olivia had drawn their kingdom of flowers. "Yeah, baby," I said, "we're done." But maybe what I meant was, we've finally begun. Sometimes the ground has to break before you learn what can actually hold. So, what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough?